This is heavy.
Well, Andrea, thank you for coming and hanging out. I've kind of been following you on like social media and stuff, and I came to one of the events that you did.
Oh, which one?
It was the one with all the cacti.
Oh, yes.
It was like an evening in the desert or something.
Yes,
I don't know what it was.
the Desert Mirage. Yeah,
that was cool.
I just posted about that recently.
Really?
I did like a whole thing on my story where I was like, "Remember this?"
That was rad.
This is all I did for that. Like, yeah.
I don't know if you have any pictures from that, but
yeah, that's on here. Like, if you scroll down a lot, there's videos of it. But yeah, I was just sharing about how like that was my first gig I ever had at Saturn, and it was
really I didn't know that,
and it was because there was some band that canceled last minute that night, and then the homie Rolf, shout out, hit me up and was like, "Would you be able to fill a 3-hour spot?" And I was like, "Bet," you know. Dude. And it was like 5 days before. I
was about to say, how much heads up they give you?
Yeah, like I had less than a week. Yeah, it's that middle one.
This one here? No, go down one.
No. Wait, never mind. It's not that one. Keep going.
Oh, that looks like it.
Yeah, it was
you
a
had
part
like
of
the
it.
screen behind
that was like,
you and all that stuff.
But yeah, cool. It was like a 3-hour set of like down tempo organica, which is a genre that I like to do sometimes, but there's not always a place for it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so when you have like a whole night for it, it really like it's usually a lot slower than what other DJs are gonna play. So either you have to open with it, or if you're like headlining, you can't really play it because usually the people before you are going to play more higher energy stuff. Okay. But it like has a lot of energy in it. Like, as you can see, these people are dancing like crazy, but you have to like get into it because it's like around 100 to 110 BPM. It's kind of like this like slow,
a little more mellow,
slow jiving
spectrum, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, that was like a really that was one of my favorite shows ever because I just it was like a last minute challenge and I got to play stuff I don't normally get to play. And it was 3 hours and I planned out like the whole set ahead of time. Like I had every song kind of picked out in order. And then I edited a video, like all the visuals behind me was like this whole video where I just went online and like found like desert movies and old stuff and clips and just like edited a movie that went with like each song and each transition. So it like timed with the set basically. And
dude,
like,
that's deep, man.
Yeah,
wow.
Because I didn't have a visual guy, you know, that could do the transitions for me. So I just edited it and then like I like marked the minutes that like my transitions in my set were happening and then put that into Premiere and then like just edited like a 3-hour clip to go with it because I'm like a video person. So
I was about to say,
I was nerding out about that.
Dude, yeah.
I was like, can I please do like can I use the projector? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, yay. Like,
so you do video production and stuff. So I guess that lends itself well with doing this. And at least in a space like this where you have a projector and you have like the ability to use visuals and stuff. Yeah, I imagine there's venues where you don't have that luxury, you know.
Yeah, and I don't always love like I don't believe in having like a lot of visuals all the time. You know what I mean? Like it's for a certain kind of show environment. But I feel like if they're gonna put me on the stage at Saturn, like I want to have something up there with me. So it's not just like let's just. And I also told them I think. Only backlight me, like don't front light me because I don't want to be like my face. Mm-hmm. Like I just want a silhouette and then the visuals just kind of like add to the environment, but it's not like, hey, let's all look at the DJ.
Sure.
Yeah. And like anytime I can kind of like adjust the environment to take away from it being like a show where we're all looking one direction, like I try to avoid that.
Interesting.
Yeah. To kind of put more energy like back on the dance floor.
Sure.
And that's like a whole philosophy that I can like really nerd out and get into if you want me to.
Dude, well, I have so many questions. So my brother and I, you know, I don't know what it is with the French. They seem to be like they're the EDM kings of music.
French electronic right now is like
bro.
I mean, obviously Daft Punk.
Punk, obviously, but like we're big fans of Justice, like them. They got a new album that's
love
about
Justice.
to drop. Yeah, so.
I saw them in 2017.
Dude,
way.
seriously?
No way.
It was
Where?
amazing. It was one of the best shows I've ever. It was in Houston at this festival.
I saw that
called-
on YouTube.
Yeah, at Day for Night,
Oh,
the
it
festival.
looks so
I was
cool.
there up in the front. I was like,
Are you
lucky
serious?
dog.
Yeah.
because they had like the lights come down.
oh, and all the amps that were like outlined, and then the trusses were like,
I
yeah.
can't believe
Their
you were
sets
there for
changed.
that.
It
That's
was
cool.
2017.
it was one of the dopest. Like, it was one of my favorite shows I've seen. Justice also just set a lot of like inspiration for a lot of other like EDM. And
Yeah,
stuff.
definitely.
Yeah, a lot of like, and Daft Punk. You know, they're just kind of like.
I hated that I never got to see Daft Punk. I mean, by the time I was kind of getting, experienced into that genre of music, and this is when I was in college. It was around the time that the Tron movie came out, and they did a soundtrack, and they had kind of stopped touring. And me and my friends had always hoped, like, man, maybe they'll, go back out and, because of the movie, like, go back out and do another set stuff.
Yeah, that soundtrack went hard for real. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It looks awesome, man.
Yes, I'd never seen like that kind of stage design where it was like the light trusses came down and like would form all these
Moved and all
different
this stuff.
shapes and stuff. And they really held out on those like amps that have like this outline light. Like they held out till like halfway through the set. Like in this one song, all of a sudden they start outlining and like lining up and coming in the middle, and you're like, "Holy shit!"
So they're finally,
Yeah, they put lights on everything.
The part of the video, not to harp on this video for all of our audio listeners, but like there's a part of the set where all the lights like come down.
Yes.
Like they're all rigged on whatever you call it. Words.
Rigging.
Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
little marionette.
God,
Like,
it's so cool.
yeah.
So cool.
Yes, that was a good memory for me for sure. Yeah.
Well, we went to Atlanta and saw, they did a film, Iris or whatever, and it was kind of like, was it Iris? Space
Yeah.
I
Odyssey
haven't
or
seen it.
whatever?
Space Odyssey.
It's basically they just perform like a set, and it had a lot of the songs.
like a concert film?
It's like a concert film,
I
basically.
love that shit,
But there's
yeah.
no audience. It's just like them in this like giant warehouse studio.
That's cool.
And they rebuilt what looks to be what they had on this tour.
When did this come out?
It came out a few years ago because he told me about it. And it's like, dude, we're going to Atlanta because that was the only theater we could find that was screening it.
Yes.
And it was cool, man. Not as cool as being there in real person. I'm super jealous. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was lucky for that. That was one of the only times they had come over to America in like forever, like years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Zach said they are playing, what, Lollapalooza?
No,
Or,
it's
Coachella.
Coachella.
They're
Yes.
playing Coachella. So
Which
we're
is
like,
weird,
dude,
weird lineup this year.
Yeah,
Very-
everyone has
very
commented on
odd.
that. Yeah.
maybe, is that just across the board with festivals? I don't know.
I'm neutral.
But we were talking about, man, could we get Coachella tickets just to go see Justice? That'd be cool.
Oof, that'd be a lot of money.
Be a lot of money, yeah. But yeah, speaking of other events, I think it was last year you guys had I keep seeing the signs for the upcoming chicken parade. And so it seemed like, was it last year or the year before, you guys had a float?
Yes.
Where you guys did speakers and stuff? That was really cool.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that so big shout out to Samaka Sounds. He runs and he's built and operates a like custom like high fidelity sound system. And
Okay.
if you can just dive into sound system culture, it's like a whole thing. And I won't even get into that. But he's probably like the only person in the state that's kind of doing that, even though it is a big thing with like bass music and EDM. But the sound system's called Murda One, and he basically just put this huge ass sound system on a float and then had like some of our homies DJing.
Yeah.
And then I was just like dressed up. I was like, "Can I throw ass on your float, please?"
Yeah. Well, I saw you up there dancing and stuff.
Yeah, I was like, "Please, I just want to be.
I just wanna
on
be
the
a part of
float."
this.
Yeah, and he was like, "Yes, of course." And it's all recorded. There's like there's a YouTube video of it. But yeah, like that's kind of like, I mean, I'm biased because he is my boyfriend, but we have we've been friends for like 2 years or so before that ever happened. But he's just like such a pillar of the community because there isn't really any other, there's nothing else in Birmingham where you're gonna get like sound quality that like big and visceral, like especially just taking it anywhere, like probably like, Saturn has like the L Acoustics rig, which is really great. That's a quality sound system, but like what he has and his ability to just put it in a warehouse and throw a show is like, that's really kind of crucial for people that take DJing and like electronic music seriously is the quality of the sound.
Sure.
Good speakers, good, music files, like all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good mixing in the tracks. Like, you could nerd out about all of that.
Yeah. Well, does he, so he built it for like, if I'm a DJ, I'm going to start DJing. Could I just call him up and say, hey man, like, does he rent it out or how does that work?
Yeah. I mean, like it's like he runs it, like it's his business. So you can like hire him out for an event. He throws his own events. A lot of the like EDM events he puts on.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, Alex, we could be Justice. We could be Heavy Ultra.
Dude, we could. That lends itself well to this type of music, I would think. Yeah. So how did you, let's take it back a little bit. How did you get into this world and into this culture? And I have so many questions, and we'll get to those. But what's your story as far as like how you got into this and started performing and doing this live?
Yes, totally. Also, like, I could nerd out. Anytime you ask me a question, it's like I could just go into...
That's what podcasts are for. So, works out.
We are. So this has a little more direction. So basically, like, some people around Birmingham might know me from doing art, like, first and foremost. Like, I did art in high school, and then I went to Montevallo and got my BFA in art there, and I did new media and painting. And new media is kind of how I found my way into video and like technology and digital art and stuff. But for a while after I graduated, I was just like hustling with painting and art. And some people that know me remember that I had a gallery called Chroma Cove, and it was like this little studio space that I rented out.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was just like a little studio space I rented out, but then I would host an art show once a month to kind of help pay for the rent. But it was always like I would host other artists that were just like around Birmingham, newer artists, whatever.
Where was it located?
It was in Forest Park in that building that's next to Ruguru.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like so deep in the art sauce. Like I was painting all the time, and then I was hosting the shows, and they were going well. And I would just charge like $5 entry, have like a bar with music and like cool lights, and then there's like the gallery rooms, and like I even decked out the bathroom. There was a bathroom in there, and I filled the tub with like ball pit balls. So it was like a little interactive photo shoot room or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I put a lot of love into that space, but it burned down after a few months of me having it, and they found out it was from a cigarette that like someone flicked down to the bottom of the staircase.
That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. Yeah, fucking put your cigarettes away, okay?
How long ago was that?
This was 2017.
2017, man.
Yes, 2017. It was on April Fool's Day too.
Really?
Oh.
So everybody's like, it's not really burning.
Yeah. So like.
So where was the building? I guess I'm picturing like where it was like a wine store, whatever.
It's that one that's like 2 stories, and it's right next to where Ruguru is. It's blue, and I had like one of 4 units. There was like 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I had like a top floor, and you would enter from the back. But yeah, like I left, I wrapped everything up. Everything looked great. It looked fine. And then went out to like a bar to celebrate, and like an hour later, someone calls me like, "Oh my gosh, like Chrome Grove is on fire! Like there's fire trucks!" And like I drive out there and like just run out there, and it's just like black skeleton, huge flames, like fucking huge hoses. Like I'd never been on the scene of like a fire like that, yeah. With like all the fire trucks out, and it just like was dry, and like, there's leaves, and the staircase was old wood, and it was just a cigarette that just got out of control. And I lost.
So you lost everything.
I lost not only everyone's art that was there for the show that night, but I lost almost all my art that wasn't sold or in my own home. So like pretty much all of my collection from like college, everything I was working on, all my art supplies, like everything.
Dude, that's so brutal.
It was
I'm so sorry.
fucked. Yeah. There was like some people were really sweet and started a GoFundMe. Thank y'all for that. And that helped me get some more art supplies. And then I just was like, okay, I'm not going to do this like gallery thing that was stressful. I'm not going to try to like redo it.
That's a good out.
Yeah,
I
was like, okay, like I loved it, but this is just a sign for me to not do that, I guess. And yeah, and then I would paint in my home, but really it was just like never the same after that. Like I just never like kept the momentum up. Like I did make some really cool stuff the next couple years, but it was just kind of slowly like, you know, I couldn't maintain the momentum. And
you take a big hit like that, I mean that'll take the wind out of your sails for sure.
Yeah, and I was trying to like make art my thing and do it full time, and that kind of also like takes the joy out of stuff. You know, if you try
when
to
you make what you love your job, then
if you try to capitalize on it a little too much,
it,
it kind of can. Yeah, and so I pretty much just like got more into the video world for my day job. Art kind of fell off. You know, and then eventually I just had to come to terms with like, it's okay that like, I'm not doing this right now. Like I was really hard on myself of like that being my identity and like, who am I if I'm not making art? But eventually I got to a place where I was like, it's fucking okay. You can just like enjoy your life and chill and just, you know, there was like a year or two where I was just like lazy and not trying to like achieve all the things or whatever. But then really what happened with music is, like I've always been such an like audiophile or whatever you want to call it. And like such a music nerd. Like I was the kid in high school where people always wanted my playlist and they would be like, give me your, you know, you can have the aux or whatever the fuck, you know,
give me
like, give Andrea the aux. Yeah.
With all the
or
cool
like
music
show me the cool new music or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I had like the Microsoft Zune subscription, which was like,
dude, Zune.
It was like the Spotify before Spotify where you
Sure.
could just pay for a month and like find anything. And, you know, people would be like, let me use your subscription to show me all the music you're finding or whatever.
Yeah.
And
everybody needs someone like that in their life. He's that person for me. I'm like,
Yes.
for books, music, culture.
good influence.
I was
Yeah.
just like, I need somebody that's like, what's cool? What's going on in the world? Yeah.
Totally. And then, you know, I would meet people, latch on to people that did that for me too, you know, and you're just like nerding out together. But I, like, during art and painting, I really got into, like, DJ sets. And I guess, like, the first time I ever really heard, like, a full DJ set that was, like, the kind of DJing that, like, I'm doing. Not, like, a wedding DJ or whatever.
Sure,
you know what I mean? Not,
no,
like,
no, I know what you mean.
you know, we're at Innisfree or whatever. You know, not to hate on Innisfree, sorry. But, you know, where it's just, like, top 40 stuff, you know, where it's, like, a, like, mix. Was when I was in college, I was like 19 and like friends with these hippies that brought me to a burn, and you know there's no lineup or you know there's no schedule or anything. You just like it's like Burning Man. You just go around and you find like a stage, you know, or whatever.
Where was it?
So this was in Georgia. This was in
So there's other burns besides just Burning Man.
Yeah, there's regional burns that are like small, they're cheap, they're like, you know, it's just kind of it's really cool. Yeah, it's like a festival but like more
way scaled down, I guess.
Way scaled down, and like everyone just shows and brings what they can, and it's like there's no money involved.
Right.
And,
yeah, super laid back.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and very ratchet but really fun, you know.
Sure. Those are usually the best, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember like seeing a DJ for the first time where it was like we're in the forest and everyone's just like totally in the sauce, like dancing hard, like in the music, like we're not socializing, it is a bar, like we're about the music, and the whole set was just like, you know, it's all blended together where I'm like, where does the song begin and end? And I'm just like riding this ride.
Like one
and,
whole
and I'm just
piece.
like, I just got so locked in it, and it was like, it was the first time I ever really like experienced that, and I like it just scratched this part of my brain that was like, oh, like I love this.
Yeah.
And so then, you know, I started getting into like, I found out like, you know, you can listen to mixes on SoundCloud, and people put out their like 2-hour mixes, throw that on while I'm painting, don't have to pick
shout out
the music.
to the mix you put out on SoundCloud recently.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
listening to that today, dude.
Nice.
I was driving around jamming to it. I was like, okay, this is cool.
Hell yeah, that's
that
cool.
was awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. But yeah, I got, that kind of got me into like DJing as an art, because I would be listening to those all the time, and I started to like understand what was happening, like where the transitions were happening, and like understand like the flow and composition of like a whole hour or two of music, you know what I mean? And I really started to like, like me and my best friend would send each other stuff, and we'd be like, oh, this one where this part where it picks up and it comes back down, we started getting really into like,
Start going deep dive.
Yeah. And then finding DJs that we liked, and just kind of getting more, underground into that or whatever. So yeah, then like fast forward 2020, it's the pandemic, and I'm now working from home, and where I was in an office, and I feel like everybody was like looking for hobbies or like playing video games or some shit, you know what I mean? If you weren't an essential worker, I guess. But yeah, I was just
I'm gonna get a MIDI set up and get into this. Yeah.
Basically, I was like, you know what? What if I like I love music, and I've always kind of fantasized about doing music in some way, and I've always like, I love shows, going to shows. I've always like, thrown like house parties, or like been a part of like the local music scene and like supported it, and I'm just like so about that. And I've always kind of fantasized of like, doing music myself in some way, but then I kind of had an imposter syndrome where I was like, well, I'm an artist and art's my thing, and I can't really like break into that or whatever, but that's just like,
I get that,
self-limiting,
Sure.
But yeah, but then I was like, fuck it, I'm just like in my house, like let's play around. And I downloaded Virtual DJ, which if like any DJs are listening, that's not really like the program most people use.
Is that like the garage band or
yeah,
whatever?
It's kind of like the garage band.
Okay,
yeah, it's free.
You got to start somewhere.
It's fine. It's good. It's not the like club standard or whatever the fuck. But if my mom listens to this, she's gonna hear me curse so much. But you have
Mom.
you have to get over it.
It's all good.
She doesn't mind.
She loves you.
Anyway, yeah, I didn't even have a controller, and then I quickly was like, I need a controller, and then I literally looked up the cheapest one I could find, because I wasn't sure I would stay invested in it. I thought, I'm like, oh, this will just be something I try for a month, and I'll forget about it, like all the other stuff, like knitting or whatever. And and I got the controller I got was called the Newmark Party Mix. And once again, if you know what I'm talking about, like this controller has like some of the basic functions, but yeah, you should look it up. But it doesn't even have... It looks
legit, man. Look at that thing.
Okay, it's like...
From an outsider's perspective, it was like...
Well, yeah, I was new, so I was like, this looks like it has the buttons I need. And it doesn't even have all 3 EQ. It doesn't have, like, the mids in it. It doesn't have, like, a loop function. The tempo sliders are so small. There's, like, no point in trying to beat match with them, like, because you just can't even, like, slide to, like, the right tempo at all. And then instead of any outputs, it has no outputs. Like, you have to plug it into a computer and
you got USB. That's it.
Do the audio from the computer. Okay. And instead of outputs, it has like the party lights on the front. Like it has little like disco party lights that you
can't turn off.
Like this was designed for like a 12-year-old probably. That's like confident enough to like really try, but I don't know. But yeah,
Newmark's listening to this right now. They're like, "Hey, hold on."
Newmark's great, but this was not targeted for my age at all. Okay. But I learned on that for like 8 months, and I just got so sucked into it. It just like it scratched that itch where I like loved it, and it was like one of the few hobbies I've ever started that I stuck with. Like I was just obsessed with it. And then I was also just obsessed at like getting better at it, and I was like watching YouTube tutorials all the time, like always mixing and trying stuff. And then like I was subjecting my like my roommates, like my pod of like the same 8 people I hung out with in the pandemic. I shout out to y'all for enduring that and supporting
listen to this mix.
Yeah, supporting me. Well, I would throw little house parties where it was just the 8 of us, and I would DJ in the corner, and they would just, hear me, like this new DJ, like trying these mixes.
All right, Andrea's throwing another dance party.
Yeah,
All right,
pretty
let's
much. And like
let's go.
They were supportive, and it was really fun. Sometimes, like some of those little baby parties, I look back at, and I'm like, this was really awesome because I was so.
That's cool.
You know, I was so new, and it was so fun. You know, and I wasn't like, it was all like private. You know, I wasn't trying to be somebody.
Sure.
Or anything.
Yeah.
But pretty much that was like June, like the summer of 2020, and by the end of the year, I saved up and I got like a nicer controller. I got a DDJ 800 for those who know. It's nice. It's basically like the most similar to like the club standard equipment without having its own computer in it, you know? So controllers you plug into a laptop and you have to run like a DJ software from your laptop.
Is Ableton still a thing? Do
Yes.
people still use that?
Some people DJ with Ableton. That's
Okay.
not like the DJ software or whatever.
Okay.
It's kind of like a little more unique to play live with Ableton. If you know, most people, it's not technically DJing, I guess. Like I don't know.
So what
how you
software
would say it.
do you use?
Rekordbox is like the
Rekordbox.
Pioneer software. So Pioneer is kind of like the Adobe of DJ stuff, where like if you go into a club or you're at a festival, like you're gonna see Pioneer equipment. Like you know, that's the club standard. And then Rekordbox is the software that you use. And if you the equipment that's standalone that you don't use a computer with, that has its own like computers and screens in it, like in it, you know, it has its own software, and that shit's really expensive.
Really?
It's so expensive.
Is it still Pioneer? Or
Yes.
Is it, I guess there's lots of competing.
There are competing
manufacturers and
brands,
software and
but
stuff.
Pioneer
Like Final
kinda,
Cut versus Adobe or whatever.
Yeah, Pioneer kind of dominates the market pretty much.
Okay.
Like you're really
So that's kind of the industry.
you're gonna see that in most venues, you know. But yeah, I basically got obsessed with it. Eventually I put out like a couple mixes online just for fun, and then by the time people were starting to like get vaccinated and come back out, my friend KPT at Trim Tab, shout out, love you. She was like, hey, we're trying to, you know, get music back and going. We're trying to get people to come out. Like, do you want to play? I've listened to your mixes. They're fun. Would you want to play?
Can play a set. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they were just like really desperate to have like anybody play music. But I was like, yes, oh my gosh, like my first show. Like this is like the thing I've been like fantasizing about.
You weren't nervous or anything?
I was so nervous.
Okay.
Oh my God, I was so nervous. And that was like, that wasn't until a year later. Like that was May. So I had
you've been practicing and
for
stuff?
like
Sure,
a year. Yeah. And it's still like, even then I had so much to learn. Like, it's just like, you can just, the technical skill you can get into with DJing goes so deep, you know?
Yeah, and that's something that, you know, to somebody who's never done it, and I mean, maybe for a lot of people that don't DJ, you don't really understand. I don't really understand what goes into what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all I hear is like the music and it's blending well and the tempo matches and it's a good selection, but I'm sure there's so much thought that goes into that.
Yeah.
And I assume it's live mixing that what you're doing versus just like hitting play, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know that like TikTok where the girl's like, what do DJs actually do? Like, what are they doing up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe you could shed some light on that a little bit. Like what is a
totally, yeah. Like
twisting that gain knob, baby.
that's what you don't want to do, or else the sound guy will get mad at you. But it's like, I always say that it's easy to get into, but it's hard to do well.
Okay. So you could spot a bad DJ, I would imagine, or maybe some of the errors that maybe someone like me
if you've
would
been
never
DJing
notice.
for a while, absolutely. And
Okay.
but sometimes the average audience, goer doesn't.
They don't really know. Yeah.
But a lot of the times they do, and I think especially with EDM getting more popular, like just fans, like an audience is getting more aware of this, this technique of DJing, and they're more aware. I think you can get away with less, honestly, nowadays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's just more of it's more of a known. I don't know. They're just more savvy to like what's going on in a mix or whatever,
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I like to compare it to like rock climbing, where like if you go into a rock climbing gym and you've never been at all, you can probably send like, a V0 or V1, right? Like you can just climb to the top,
You're choosing any holds you can find.
Yeah,
like getting to
like
the
an
top.
easy route. A normal person can probably climb to the top. But the people that are doing like,
the real boulder,
whatever, the crazy stuff, like they're making it look so smooth and simple, and they just glide up that wall, and it's like that takes years of practice and like, training to do.
The finesse.
Yes, but to someone that doesn't know what's going on, they're just looking at a room of people climbing walls. You know what I mean? So.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good analogy. You probably said that once or twice. I think about these things.
But I played my first show. And,
how'd it go? You said it was at Trim Tab?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was, that's actually where I met Sam. And, from that point on, I started meeting all of like the DJ homies, all the people in the scene kind of came out of the woodworks. But it was awesome because it was kind of like a friend reunion where like a lot of people hadn't been out yet. And it was outside, so a lot of people were just getting vaccinated, so a lot of people were getting comfortable with coming out. And it was like all these people that I knew from different, periods of life, like all kind of came out. And it was like it felt like a reunion where I hadn't seen people for the whole year. She's DJing now, and we can go, we can dance.
Let's do this.
Yeah, and that's, I think that energy is really why the dance music scene has taken off like crazy the past couple of years. It's like a post-pandemic thing where people really wanted to get out and like be together and blow off steam and like celebrate. And also you could say that, in times of, there's all this like data and study on like throughout history, like times that were harder, like in like, particularly like American history, in like the 2008 recession and even in like the 1920s, like the type of music like got faster. Like music became more
energetic,
like party music when things were rough, because that was like an escape for people to blow off steam
totally.
and something affordable people could do to kind of like, but yeah, what was funny, it was going so well. I was really nervous, but I got up there, and I remember Sam, like I had just met him, and I don't feel like he was taking me seriously, like at all. And like, because I don't blame him. There's a lot of people, like he's like, this is her first show ever, and like that's really hit or miss. But I got up there, played for a while. People are dancing, and I practiced for that like a lot. I was so nervous. And he runs up to me and he's like, this is not your first show. This is not your first time. And I'm like, yes, it is. And
really?
He's like,
he didn't believe you.
Yeah. And he's like, can you keep playing? Can you play till close? Like, here's more money. Keep playing. And literally like handed me money and was like, keep playing. Like, can you play another hour? And I'm like, yes. And I wasn't prepared for that.
And you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
All right, what are some other songs like here?
Yeah. I was like, I guess I got to nail this shit. And like, I wasn't prepared to like freestyle, as they say, but I did. And it was awesome. And then pretty much like from then on, it was just like gigs. It was like gigs. Like people were just like, we want this. It brings people to our venue. People are buying drinks. People are coming out. You know what I mean? And then I started meeting all the other DJs in town that I didn't even know existed. And we all started finding each other. That like 2021, like that was just like this whole community kind of started opening up. And I met,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And I met people that have been doing this forever. And I just like couldn't find it. Like I always wanted good like dance music and like house music in Birmingham, and I couldn't ever find it. And I remember like it was like March of 2020, like right before the pandemic happened, like February, March, I went to Paper Doll and I saw Tony Rodeo was playing. Shout out Tony, I love you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's playing like good ass global house music. Like I don't hear this anywhere in Birmingham. And like the next week, it was like my friend was like, oh, he plays every Friday. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and the next weekend I went back and I was just like, we're gonna go dance. Like, and then the weekend after that, it was like the pandemic started. So yeah, but yeah, it was just like, it just took off, and it just hasn't like been the same. Like it's just like the scene's just been growing, and like now that I fell into it, I've really believed in like fanning that flame and growing it, and like now there's like, especially last year, there's just so many more DJs on the scene. Like, you know, a lot more venues are hosting shows. It's just been like the last 3 years have been like just crazy, you know, to see.
Just an excitement, I guess, for this style of entertainment.
And there's been like EDM in Birmingham before that. Like, you know, there's been.
You remember the thing at Bottle Tree they used to do? It was called Kids Got the Disco.
Yes,
yes,
that was like way back before I even
back,
lived in Birmingham. But also there was like, you know, there was like a bass scene, and people, there was like shows at Zydeco, and then like Woody's. I think it was called Woody's. I wasn't there for that.
Is that the place in Trussville?
Yes.
I saw Big Chocolate there.
Yeah.
It was in. That's the video. It's like a billiards bar now.
I never went, but everyone I know has stories of it.
Really?
The people like
I've never heard of it.
It was more like bass music, which I love, but I wasn't as into at the time. And it was kind of like known as this like festy kid sketchy place.
Yeah, pre-sketch, people doing questionable things.
Oh yeah, like drugs,
the venue,
whippets and stuff in the parking lot. Yeah.
But like some of like, you know, there's some big like bass DJs that are like, you know, big names that came out of Birmingham and were like playing there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's cool.
So,
Woody's. Is that what it was called?
Woody's. It's not. I looked it up before the show. It's not. I don't think it's there anymore. I think it's like a billiards bar.
It died. I don't know. I just hear all the stories. I wasn't there for it, but you know, shout out.
Well, that's awesome. Well, congrats, man. That's cool that it's like. I'm sure after that first show going as well as it did, and that if there wasn't a flame lit before that, then it's just like, oh my God, this is so awesome.
Yeah.
You know, get the feedback and stuff. I can imagine that would be really addictive.
Such a good feeling too.
Such a good feeling. It's like, this worked, man. It's cool.
And I've just played so many shows that like since then, like of so many different kinds, like, you know, at a point it was like almost every weekend, and I got to a point where I had to say no to more shows that I could say yes to. I say no to a lot of shows now because I'm really trying to like focus on producing more than playing gigs. So I'm trying to like not spend my time and energy on gigs as much, and also play gigs that I'm like really excited for, because there's lots of like after you play like for a while, there's lots of gigs you can get that, you know, you're not like crazy about or anything.
Sure, I guess that comes with the territory of any kind of like live event, artistic endeavor, you know.
Yeah, and I don't want to like burn myself out to
That's
it,
fair.
you know. And I've definitely went through a lot of like stages and my philosophy of like, what is my project? What do I want it to be? Where is it going to go? Like, what is my place? You know, because I feel like, you know, in Birmingham, I feel like I've kind of reached the limit of like what I wanted to do, you know, and I feel like I've played all the places I wanted to play, and I've reached out to all the people that, you know, I feel like enjoy what I'm doing. Like, I feel like I've kind of hit my limit in Birmingham, and I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, what do I do next? Like, what's the next step? Do I want to take the next step? Like, how involved am I getting in this? And like the whole time, it's really just been me putting one foot in front of the other, just like, you know, okay, I got the board, now what? Let's put a mix out. Oh, now I got a show, you know.
Now I'm playing all these shows. Now I'm playing every weekend. Now I'm doing this.
Now I'm like, you know,
turning down shows. And
exactly.
Like, wow, okay.
And I've like flown out to shows, and like, it's just like, really the big thing for me now is producing. Is like, I've always wanted to make my own music that's all original, and that's just like a whole nother beast.
Whole nother beast. So walk me through that a little bit. So when you're out DJing, you know, those first, I guess, 2 years or however that was, I mean, you're playing a lot of music that's already been produced by other artists.
Yes.
Artists that you like, and we could open the whole can of worms as far as like, I don't fully understand, and I'm sure maybe there's other people out there not in this world that I don't fully understand the differences of like, you know, techno versus house versus,
you could go so into it.
You know, dubstep versus, you know, I don't know, all the different facets of it. And I think a lot of it, correct me if I'm wrong, has to do with the tempo, I would imagine. But also,
that's a big,
like,
easy way to tell.
To tell, you know, but like, you know, if you could summarize it, what is... Yeah. I've never could clearly define like what is house music.
So house music is really one of the oldest like forms of dance music. I mean, it goes back to like I've watched all the documentaries and books, and I don't want to like butcher anything.
Okay. No, we don't go that deep, but yeah.
It goes deep, but like, like the DJs know how it really all started with house, and
because I see that term thrown around a lot, but it's
yes,
like house, it's almost like dive bar. It's like, okay, well, define dive bar. And I've asked some bartenders that, and they actually have a hard time. Yeah. Everybody's definition of it's a little different. Almost.
Yeah, and like now house has there's so many versions. It's another huge umbrella. Mm-hmm. But basically the most defining thing is the 4 on the floor. So is the kick, like most of the dance genres are really, it's tempo, and then the drum pattern is like the easiest way to kind of identify. And the 4 on the floor is like, that is the house heartbeat. And a lot of the times it's typically in the 120 to 130 range. Although down tempo is considered house, and that's like can be around 90 to 110. Okay. But it's all about like that kick every beat. And then usually the hi-hat, is on the offbeat, and then you have the snare on the 2 and 4. But that's pretty much most, like there's a lot of stuff people call house music, and I'm like, is it? But it's got 4 on the floor in it. So okay. You know what I mean? But it's usually like,
is that the most popular?
Yeah, like
style, I guess.
That is. Oh,
you defined it for us.
Yeah. I'm like, literally. That was pretty,
how do you describe house music?
I didn't even look at that.
No, she didn't cheat at all. But yeah, exactly what you said. 4/4 rhythms, 120, most typical form. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also like a lot of house music is made to be DJ'd. It's made to be mixed. It has like
long intros, long outros, so you can fade it and all that stuff.
Kind of hypnotic, and a lot of original house is more like simple and not overproduced, so that you can mix with it and like layer tracks and like take pieces from tracks and like
and so you can take Chronic 2000 and overlay it on your favorite beat or something like that. You're trying to create your own mixes and stuff.
Yeah, and that's my favorite part of mixing is like creating new stuff, because that's a lot of what you're doing is taking the EQs out, like certain EQs out of a track, layering it onto another one, so you're making like a new song. So you could have like the hats and vocals going and the bass taken out, and it's layering on top of this more minimal track that has the bass line going, and now you've got like a new synth on with these vocals, and it like matches like so great. And like, my favorite kind of mixing is like, where you can't even tell when that song started, or when it's ending. Like it's just so blended that you're kind of, even if you recognize like a song, you're like, oh, I've never heard it like this.
It's a completely original mix.
Mixed into that, or like, like chopped up that way or looped that way. Like there's a lot you can do live.
I was about to say, it's like you're producing on the fly.
Yes.
Yeah,
you can really get crazy with it. And that's like, I just love the technical aspects of DJing. And you can play banger sets where you're not really mixing that crazy. A lot of huge EDM artists do that, and it's just more about the production. Like, here's my song. But I just am such a nerd for the type of DJing that's like mixing.
That's cool.
Bass music is kind of the other biggest one.
So how would you define that? Is that? I mean, obviously there's bass.
Yeah,
but I mean, is that the same as dubstep, which to me is more like?
So dubstep, I feel like dubstep has the most butchered like meaning now.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the original dubstep was like 90s, 2000s UK, like deep,
any artist I would have
minimal, probably not.
Okay.
But it's like deep, minimal, like it's a syncopated rhythm. So it's like on the 1s and 3s, you have the hits, and it's not, the kick is not like 4 on the floor. It's like on the 1s and 3s. And then sometimes there's like a gentle hat or a snare, and there's all this space in between the percussion to fill in with these really deep bass lines. So it's more focused on these like unique bass lines and bass sounds that you can create with synthesizers and And also that kind of music is like meant, like I was saying earlier, for sound systems. It's meant for, having these huge quality speakers where you can really feel that deep bass, and it has like this primal like experience with it. You know what I mean? It's you just can't do it justice on like your iPhone or your computer or whatever.
It's not the same,
Yeah, and so that kind of like original UK dubstep was like very minimal, very meant for mixing, because they were simple songs and you could like chop them and layer them. And basically, like, kind of how America does for a lot of things, it, like, found it and then Americanized it. And then you got, like, Skrillex dubstep, which is, like,
I was about to name drop him. I was like, is he dubstep? What is he?
Yeah. And so, like, when people think dubstep, they think, like, Skrillex or whatever. And
Bass Nectar, wasn't he, like, a big thing for a while?
Him who shall not be named. He's, like...
Oh, didn't he get like ostracized?
Deeply,
didn't he do something bad?
Canceled. Yes.
He who shall not be named was super canceled. Didn't mean to bring that or name drop that.
No, you're fine. Like, a lot of people call him Ass Nectar now.
What did he do?
He was like sexually assaulting and trafficking like minors.
Wow.
Pretty much.
That's extra bad.
When you kind of just on paper, that's what.
Okay. Yeah. But obviously, it seems like. House, it seems to be your preference, or what would you say is like most influential on you as far as like is it genres? Is that even a fair term to say when it comes to those types of?
Yeah, totally. Like house is like my first love, and it always will go back to house. But I do love like a lot of bass music, and also just to like continue on that like dubstep. I feel like bass is an umbrella that now encompasses more than just dubstep, you know what I mean? I think people use that term because like dubstep is, like I said, like, there's really like Americanized dubstep, and there's like it's just evolved into like so many subgenres that it's even hard to define them all. And there's just like really like big, really produced main stage stuff, and it really is very different than like the original like intention of dubstep. But it has its own like amazing place, but also like I feel like the term bass music kind of encompasses that and more like experimental genres that have come out where it is focused on the bass line and less on the percussion. But it's not necessarily the same like formula of a dubstep song, or it can go into like drum and bass or like UK garage or like there's stuff there's stuff that kind of all fits in between. And like right now I would say like I'm really into like electro and electro bass, and that sounds like probably the most general term ever. Like electro
bass. Okay.
Yeah, but it's like it kind of defines like the style like that. It was really more based off like the 808 and 909, and it's kind of like an old rave style that people are now producing a lot of newer stuff inspired by, and it kind of fits in between like house and bass and breaks, and you can kind of like, the thing I like about it is you can kind of have that in the middle and DJ into different genres from it. Like it kind of fits like puzzle pieces. Okay. So I can like genre hop within a set in a smooth way.
Does the audience? I would imagine the audience at your shows and stuff plays a crucial role in like maybe you go into a show with, and correct me if I'm wrong, with like an idea of like, okay, I'm going to play these songs or this mix or whatever, and then maybe the audience isn't quite feeling it or something, or maybe you can kind of like gauge the room. It's like, oh, okay, they really like this, or maybe they're wanting more higher tempo type stuff. I don't know.
You just sprinkle in some ABBA, get the crowd going, and then you're good.
Hey, a little ABBA vocal like edit would always fucks. I'm just saying. Dude. But
ABBA fuck.
That's a thing, and that is kind of like that's a component of good DJing is
being able to read the
room.
Yeah.
And I definitely, like, if I have a really big show, like if I'm playing like Milk and Honey, right, where it's just like that's like a 500 person crowd, everybody's like up in it, it's a big production. I like to plan the set mostly where I kind of I feel like when you can plan ahead, you actually gives you more creativity to build something that has more intention, like with the flow of the set, you know? So, you know, I'll pick an intro and then I'll kind of build the set loosely and have like a song order, but then I'll have like alternate song options. Pretty much anytime I plan a set, I always divert from it and like I'm throwing stuff in, whatever, I'm changing this stuff up. But I like to give myself like a structure to go off of because I don't want to just like completely freeball it when it's like a big production, like, you know, all eyes on you. But for more casual shows, like just like a bar show or a club or like a warehouse thing, like I will totally wing it and maybe have like something I know, like a song I know I want to start with and maybe like a BPM I know I'm going to get to, and then some playlists I know I'm going to dig through. But then just like,
you're just filling it out. Like that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like you're to the point where you're confident enough. It's like, no, I got this.
Yeah, and you do read like, okay, I'm losing them. Let me get this in. Let me pick up. Oh, I think they could go up on the BPM, or maybe I need to take it. Maybe I'm overwhelming. I need to go down. And that's definitely like, you know, especially an audience that's really engaged. They're familiar with kind of like the dance music culture and like, you know, they're really immersed in the dance floor. Like they'll give you that energy back, and it is really like a conversation. You know, a lot of the shows that are more like of a show, you know, everyone's like, you know, big screens, big stage production. Like it is like a concert where people are like watching you, and that's
watching the stage,
and that's a little less of like, I'm here to, you know, create a dance floor experience, and those are fun. But I really prefer the shows where it's like, you know, I'm on the ground, or it's a 360 and I'm just in the middle, and
everybody's kind of, it's all one
it's
big
dark, and you know, people are just dancing, and they're not all looking at me. They're all dancing with each other. They're not all talking or just standing around drinking. Like they're really like about the music, and they're like riding the ride with me. And you know, it's kind of like a etiquette and a culture and a way to you know, interact at a show that some people aren't familiar with if they aren't really in the dance music scene. You know what I mean? But when you do get a kind of show like that where you have that crowd, and it's just so much fun, because it's like you really can just take people wherever. You know what I mean? Like you can just take them places.
Having like an engaging crowd, or that's kind of with you on that. That's cool. And then not necessarily wanting to be like the center of attention like a traditional band or something like that.
Yeah, because it's not like, that's the thing I like about it, is like, it's not like about you. Like some DJing and, you know, can be really like,
well, you see people with the gimmicks and the masks.
Yeah,
and
there's
all
a lot
the
of
stuff,
that.
you know,
there's a lot of that. And like there's always ego when it comes to being a performer or whatever. But like a lot of, you know, the type of DJing that I love, like it isn't about you. It's not you writing songs from your heart. That's like, everyone look at me and hear my song, you know, whatever. Like that's like, I'm singing my poetry, which is like beautiful and wonderful.
Not
and
to put down all the poets
there
out
is
there.
a space for that, and I love that shit. I go to those shows, but like this is just a different experience. It's just, it's not. It's more about like you're creating an experience
atmosphere.
on the dance floor for the person. Like you're all part of it. It's not just like the experience is on the stage and you're watching it. Like you're in it. You know, it's like the whole room is the experience. It's more interactive.
Yeah,
and it's
not a justice show at all. Like I was about to say, you know, some of these bigger artists, you know, like Daft Punk. It's like, man, you are focused on the pyramid, you know, and all the stuff that they're doing.
And when it comes to festivals, like it kind of has to be that way, like at a festival. And like
you got 1,000 million people out there.
And there's a lot of DJs that will play like the, you know, huge festival shows, but then they'll have like a, you know, they'll do a boiler room where, you know, you've seen probably boiler room videos where, and those are meant for more of that environment where it's like, you're just on the floor in a warehouse. It's dark. We're not all supposed to be looking at you or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of DJs love playing those shows. Like
different experience.
Yeah, because if they get really big and they're just playing festival stages, they don't get that kind of like, you know,
or the intimacy. You know what I mean? Because you're so far. You see all these big artists, and it's like, dude, the audience is like,
way
I have to throw a football,
there.
you know, to even.
Yeah,
they're
at that
way,
point, it's
way
like
far away.
You're not even crowd reading. You're just playing your set.
You're just playing your set.
Dealing with it. And usually they love it, you know. But
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the Milk and Honey. I was going to ask you about some of the different events that do go on around town. So tell me about Milk and Honey. It sounds like that's a pretty big one. I guess.
That one has gotten so big.
It's relatively new, right? I mean, it's within the past year?
Only a year. The first one was last February.
And it's strictly at Saturn? Or is it at other venues?
It has only been at Saturn.
Okay.
Okay, so one person y'all absolutely have to get on the show is Andrew Thorpe. He goes by DJ Coco.
DJ Coco.
Yes.
All
and
right.
he is...
Andrew, if you're listening, we'd love to have you.
Yes. I will give you his info. He is like our DJ father, and he's just like...
Okay.
He has a wild history. He's been doing stuff in Birmingham for like... before I could drink, like well over a decade. I don't even know how long. Like he used to do the M raves. Fun fact, he designed the lights at Saturn and installed them. He's DJ'd all around the world for like fashion shows. He's from Manchester, UK. I don't know when he moved to Birmingham, but he's just been here, and he just has a big career of like doing this kind of stuff. And basically since the whole post-pandemic like revival of the dance scene, he's really been a part of the community and met a lot of us DJs, and we've kind of formed like this like family or gang where we want to put on events and fan that flame, and he's such a huge
part of it. Y'all do Friendsgiving together and all that stuff.
But he puts on, so he puts on Milk and Honey, he puts on Garden Party, he puts on like the Electric Circus that was on New Year's, Nightclub, like a lot of those events are organized by him.
I've heard of most of those, unfortunately. So, opening my eyes to this.
Yeah, and Milk and Honey was basically like, it was just like we were in a group chat of like a bunch of DJs, and you know, Coco and Steve-O, Steve-O Black. They were like, hey, we've been talking about, having like a specifically like queer inclusive, like it's an intentionally inclusive, queer oriented like dance party that's like just very glamorous and big, but it's meant to be like a safe space also. And we were,
this video looks epic.
It's
bro.
crazy.
That looks. This dude, you got Raiden out there.
So
that's
those
cool.
are the DJs from Quest and Owls. Those are like the resident DJs of Quest and Owls, and they played this New Year's one. But yeah, Steve-O plays every Milk. He's like the resident DJ for Milk and Honey, and then there's different DJs that play. There's 3 every time.
I've seen that dude around, but I've never actually like. I don't think I've formally met him.
He's just like, he's iconic. He's just one of those people everyone knows, and he's just a staple face of Birmingham, I feel like. Great DJ also. But we basically kind of had this vision, and then
so you're a part of like, sounds like you're part of like helping create this.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool.
Like, there's kind of like
a
family of us that we just like help out, and we do stuff. Like I've done promo and graphics, and like every Milk and Honey I go as just kind of like a team. If I'm not DJing, I'll even just go as a team member and to just help be on site. There's people at the show that wear like glowing wristbands, and like you can contact those people if there's something wrong or you're being harassed or whatever. And there's like a big kind of safe space policy about like, we encourage people to like dress up as they want and express themselves, and they can like dress scantily if they want to. And there's like, there's people like go-go dancing and stuff, and doing pole. There's circus performers, flow artists. There's it's just the crowd that I see come out to that is like so beautiful. Like it really was the space that we like, it became what we really wanted it to, and it's just so awesome for that. Like the first one just went amazing. Like as soon as we started marketing it, it was like it took off, and I have to give it up. Like I said, Coco was really behind so much of this, and like also Steve-O with the idea. Also Micah Mellow Melon helps out with Coco all the time. Like they just put so much work into this stuff.
Like all these artists.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they like the first one was just beautiful, and then everyone after that like sold out.
How often do you guys do this event?
It's bi-monthly, every other month. There was one in February, April, Pride
cool.
Month.
Wow.
Pride Month was
Oh, sure. I bet it went off. Yeah.
I played that one. It was so crazy. It was one of my favorite gigs I've ever done. It was.
You said it's been selling out.
It sells out every time.
Sells out every time.
Yes.
Wow.
It's crazy.
What's the limit in Saturn? What's the capacity?
I think 500.
500.
Yeah.
Man.
But
may need to find a bigger
I might be wrong,
space. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like the crowd that comes is just so beautiful. It's a lot of like younger queer kids that I don't always see out at other shows because I feel like they don't always feel comfortable coming out and like being exactly who they are, dressing the way they want to, you know, and then, you know, it's just like everybody's there really, you know. It's just very like, it's all about the self-expression and the inclusivity, and
that's cool.
You can see that in the audience for sure.
Yeah.
And the energy is just so great. That one was just so successful. It's so great. The next one is next weekend. It's Mardi Gras themed.
Oh, well, yeah, we're right on the heels of Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
And, being February and stuff. Are you guys doing another float, or whoever it was that put that on? I forget his name. Sam.
Samaka Sounds, yeah.
Is he doing another big float?
I don't know if he's doing one or not this year. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it's undecided.
It seems like the parade's gotten bigger every year, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the other? You mentioned another one, and it seemed like I saw photos. It was like a big outdoor thing, and maybe
Garden
Sam
party.
had garden party, and
Yes.
maybe I don't know if it was one that Sam had his set up there, but it was like a mini. Like I saw a couple of photos that were way back. I was like, dude, where is this going on? I don't know if this is something that happens in Birmingham.
It might have been Awaken Us. Would it look like this crazy stage shape?
Yes,
That was like, okay,
yes, yes.
so Awaken Us is a thing that happened last year. It's basically like a lot of these people in the community that are just like EDM fans and come out to a lot of shows. We're like, let's throw a festival. And there's this space in Talladega called Bohemia.
Dega, baby. All right.
Yeah, that hosted it. And they're lovely people. And yeah, it was just like a big team of people that came together. It was mostly like volunteer based. And it was like, there was like 3 stages. That main one you saw, like Sam built all of that. Like he built the whole stage. He ran the whole sound. Like him and like a couple of his friends teamed up and they did all of that. And
Dude, that's awesome.
I don't know what the attendance was. It was like small and ratchet in a lot of ways, obviously, but like it was awesome. It was crazy. They're doing another one in March, at the end of March.
Did you play at that, or you just
Yes,
attended?
I played
Okay,
at
you
that.
did play.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I helped out, you know, with just I feel like we were all busting ass just,
Yeah.
just
Well, it's a
like,
lot, man.
trying
You
to
know,
make it happen. Yeah.
Put on any kind of big event.
Yeah,
It
and
takes
that
a
was
lot of
really
work.
that was a special memory for like a lot of people because I think a lot of new DJs got to play and got to have that experience of like, you know, playing at a festival or like
Yeah.
just it you know, it's more comfortable and accessible and like it's not huge. It kind of had Burn vibes, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
that from the photos. I saw,
Yeah. So yeah, that was really special for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's plenty of other local, like smaller events, and just like, do you ever? Well, you kind of alluded to this earlier. You said you're turning down shows, so I can imagine that you're just like, I just see you pop up at the local bar, like Pilcrow or Paper Doll. I think is
Yeah.
what you said. Like,
Yeah.
I guess they have like their kind of their house crew that comes and plays.
Yeah, so Paper Doll books regularly now, every Friday and Saturday. Pretty much every Friday and Saturday, I think. Tony Rodeo like books
Okay.
that, and he'll play a lot. But then he'll bring in new people. He'll bring in just whoever. Yeah.
So for people wanting to get plugged in and experience some of these artists that you're talking about, like,
Yeah.
that may be a good place to go.
Yes. Also, like shout out to Beham Wubs.
Wubs.
Beham Wub. It's an Instagram page if you want to look it up. But Zach, our sweet little baby, we love him. He's just been like a fan in the scene, and he's just like a total EDM head. And
Beham Wub. So this
Yeah,
is the
and
best way to see what's.
he started this, and him and some of his friends keep it running, and they keep this shit updated with every flyer, every poster of every like dance music related show.
Peter's wigging
I
out.
love the
right?
struggle here.
Beham Wubs.
Yes,
all right.
of every dance music related show around Birmingham.
So this is the best plug to be like.
If
to
you
hear
want
what's
to
going on.
know what's going on, you should go to this page.
This is it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I tell
no, I
people
haven't
to
heard
go
of this
here,
dude.
even if they don't have Instagram. Like go online and just look it up because this is where you're gonna. They post
Beham
everything.
Wubs. WUBZ.
Yes, and
So
it's
for all our
just-
audio listeners, check us out on YouTube. You can see this.
Yes.
What we're talking about.
Behem Wubs with a Z.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's so many events. Like Sam hosts a open deck night that every other Tuesday or every, I think, second Tuesday and fourth Tuesday of the month at Trim Tab, and it's a free event. It's kind of like this like hangout routine church vibe almost for a lot of us that are in the scene. Like a lot of the DJs just come every time and just hang out. It's very casual. But he sets up the sound system, and you can sign up for a slot just like open mic night.
Really?
Yeah. So you sign up for a 30-minute slot.
And everybody's the gear's already set. You just jump up there and just
the gear's in the middle of the room in front of the sound system. And so people can just walk around, and then there's tables and people bring crafts and stuff and just hang out. But we see a lot of new DJs come through, like people from like out of state, like Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, Atlanta, whatever.
Dude, well, you're about to see 2 more up and coming DJs.
Seriously?
Heavy Ultra, open
Get on
mic.
it.
We're
Start
gonna be
learning.
As if we don't have enough hobbies. Yeah, we're gonna get into DJing.
You can
really
play
bad
open
at
decks if you.
Dude, it's coming.
Once you learn how to use a controller, you can do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's like, it's just like, and there's a space for that. Like there's enough people to do that. Like every
Dude, I bet you can find
Tuesday.
something every night if you just like
it's really
all
got
the different events going on around Birmingham.
Yeah, and I used to post like every one of my homies' flyers on my story and try to go out to every show, and I just can't do that anymore at all.
Dude,
there's like way
you
too
can,
many. I
yeah.
can't. Like
Totally.
I can't. Like there's just something every night of the weekend. Like yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, that's cool to see that the scene is doing well, and
Yeah.
like you said, maybe there's just been like a resurgence ever since COVID of people wanting to get into this
Yeah.
style of, I don't know, it's a good release, I guess. Hang out.
And there's also just like there's so many different kinds. Like you're not gonna hear the same thing. Like
Totally.
everyone has a different style. There's a little something for everybody. There's a lot of people that have been into this music for a long time, but then there's a lot of people that are getting into it now that are like, they're like, oh, I love metal, and like this, bass music scratches that same itch.
Sure,
or has
yeah.
whatever. There's a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can
converters.
relate to that.
Yeah.
I mean, the music that we kind of dig, I mean, we mentioned Justice a couple times, but like, there's another, he's another French dude, Data. You ever heard of him?
Yes.
Like, he's really good,
Yes.
and it's like, I don't know, I'm going to butcher it trying to describe it, but
You're
it's
fine.
like got really grindy type music,
Yes.
but it's not Skrillex, it's not dubstep, it's not
Yeah.
like that, it's like, I don't know, it's cool.
There's just there's so.
Who was the dude I was asking about earlier?
I showed Alex who Carpenter Brute was the first time.
I haven't heard of that.
I'll
Okay,
show you
yeah.
too
Yeah,
after
you
the
got
show.
it.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Yeah.
we kind of dip our toes in a little bit, which is one of the reasons I want to reach out to you. It's like, man, there's so much about like this whole culture around this type of music that I just don't understand, and so
Yeah.
I'm good at asking really dumb questions. I think.
None of them are dumb. There's no dumb questions.
Who has been some of your, now or then or whenever you got started, like your biggest influences?
Oof.
Doesn't have to be local. It could be local. Maybe it is.
Yeah,
but just like
no.
people that you were just like,
Oh, there's
this
a
is
lot.
cool.
One of the people that have inspired me to like produce, even though what I'm producing probably doesn't really sound all that much like them, is Polo and Pan. If you like French, they're French. If
Of
you
course,
like French,
yeah.
they're French. They're great. They just have a really great global sound, but they use a lot of like analog synths and like really deep groovy bass lines. A lot of they really inspired me to like, it's like dance music that's just so compositionally like beautiful and crafty while still maintaining this groove. And
Sorry to interrupt. Do you like music with a lot of vocals?
So I'm kind of like picky about vocals. Like,
Okay.
There's a big difference in like what I listen to and what I DJ. So
okay.
like I obviously anything I DJ I love listening to, but my library of artists and music I love is a lot bigger than what I like mixing
perform
or what I
yeah.
like or what I want to make. You know what I mean? So when it comes to DJing, I'm honestly like I really like minimal vocals. I think
I'm in the same vein. Really.
Yeah,
I like more instrumental type stuff.
Yes, and I'm really into like vocal chops. So if there's gonna be a vocal, it's just like totally chopped and screwed and just like, or it's just something weird repeating or like,
it's
more like a percussive.
You
like,
can pick up on the rhythm a little quicker.
Yeah, it's not as much of a melody. It's like, it's
listening to a whole pop song that was just mixed into a.
Yeah, like the type of like main stage stuff that's like really melodic, like big, powerful singing. I'm not very much into. I feel like it makes
no shade for anybody out there. Yeah,
but I feel like it like makes me feel like I'm at church sometimes. Like I'm really more into like, and they'll have these huge drops that are all about. And I'm really more about maintaining like a groove. Like I want to keep that like hypnotic like rhythm going, where some EDM is very like theatrical,
very theatrical, and I know the drops you're talking about where it's like they build and build and build and build and build and build and build, and then there's the drop, and then the song's
there's
over.
So much space, and then there's like that can be fun, and I've had fun at certain shows like that, but that's just like not the kind of stuff I do. But yeah, there's other genres of music with vocals that I love, so
that's cool.
Yeah.
This has been rad. I feel like I've learned a lot. I'm sure we could go even deeper. It's like it's been cool to hear, and it's the Coco dude. We're gonna reach out to him.
You have to get him, and he has a wonderful British accent that will be great. For
okay, awesome. I was about to say he went from one Birmingham to another. I don't know how close Manchester is. Birmingham, UK.
He took the wrong flight.
Took the wrong flight. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's like it's a whole big world, and there's so much to nerd out about, and it just gets deeper the longer I'm in it. And yeah, y'all should totally come out to some shows sometime.
Totally, yeah.
Like, they're all, that's the thing, is they're all so different. Like, it's just, there's just so much.
Well, you mentioned the garden thing. Was that the thing that y'all did at Kerrigan's?
Garden party.
And it was usually during the day.
So that was another one Coco did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is Kerrigan's even still around anymore?
No, so the hot tea is that there's a new garden party at a new location starting in March.
Okay.
So,
it's like more of a daytime event. Maybe I guess that lends itself better to warmer weather and stuff.
Yes, it's really fun. It's like it's just kind of like outdoor vibes, like real, especially in the summer and like Pride Month and stuff. It's just so much fun. They'll have like artists and vendors come, and it's just like an all day hangout.
Yeah.
But people are dancing, like they're pumping music, and people are dancing too. But like family friendly, dogs come.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
I really dig your new logo. That's cool.
Thanks.
And like you have a like a cool ambiance, I guess, if you will, like all aesthetic, for all your shows and stuff. It's like, I think one time when you first popped on my radar, you had done a show at Mom's, and I don't know if it was around Halloween or what the deal was, but you had like this whole Tron-esque, get up, and I was like, okay, who is this person? And
yes,
so that's a cool aspect of like this, and you see a lot of people go really far with it, and have a lot of really cool get-ups and stuff. And
that's one thing I love about it, is there's a lot of like other parts of it that I get to be creative and be expressive.
Oh, sure. I bet that's for someone like you is artistic. Yeah. Anyways,
like I
like,
do.
It's visual. It's audio. It's especially when you're editing the videos and stuff. I guess for Milk and Honey, I imagine they use the screens and stuff too.
Yeah. I've edited visuals for Milk and Honey too.
So it's like, man, you're getting to do like all these different things.
I also do show posters, like flyers for most of mine, and a lot of my friends I do flyers and show posters for. And I love that because I get to flex my little art muscles. And
I don't know if we have any down here you might have designed. Probably not.
I don't know.
We were collecting posters for a little while. We need to step it up. So.
I love doing that. I love working on my own like branding or whatever. It's like, it's just fun. Like, it's like a project to me now where I get to just like, it's like a little garden that I get to work on, and like, it consumes pretty much most of my free time.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun, and it's been really interesting kind of hearing your take on all of it, and I feel like I learned a lot. Hope you did too. Yes. So, Andrea, thank you so much for coming. This was awesome.
Having me.
Yeah,
we'll have to ramble.
No, man, we'll do a part 2 sometime soon. So,
yeah,
thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course.